Justin Edwards turning into a fan favorite as the season winded down for the 76ers. But where does he fit in this roster? We'll talk his story and so much more right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. We're your host, Keith Pompey, 76ers beat writer. I'm Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Blue Coats. And your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On 76ers daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up free for now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On 76ers newsletter. And today's episode is sponsored to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So Justin Edwards, a fan favorite, and he became somebody that I really liked with the 76ers team. His style, to me, Keith, fits in perfectly. I thought that when I covered him on the Blue Coats. He surprised a lot of people in Delaware, then goes to the Sixers, fits in well, and has a pretty good end to his season. I'm super excited to see what he's going to be able to do with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George next year.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Edwards is a guy who basically benefited from, if we're going to be real, he's a guy who benefited from, the injuries. Because, there was a time when Justin Edwards didn't get any DNP. He played one game. Through the 76ers' first 30 games, he only played in two. One game, it was a loss to the Clippers where they got shellacked. They lost 125-99, and Justin Edwards played the final 5 minutes and 31 seconds where he had 4 points, 2 rebounds. He made 2 or 3 shots. And then in a victory at Detroit on, November 30th, he played the final 3 minutes and 28 seconds of that 111-96 victory, right? But then all of a sudden, he racks up all these DNPs, and they go to Sacramento. And what happens is people get hurt. They put them in the game, right? Then all of a sudden, which was okay, it was a loss, a blowout loss. Then they put him in some other games where they're getting blown out, and then they needed him. They needed him to play. And there was one game in particular where they lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder on January the 14th, but he was one of the highlights. I mean, this guy ended up with 20, where he had 25 points on 9 for 16 shooting. He made 4 of 9 threes. And then all of a sudden, he gets into the starting lineup. And he started 8 games in a row, right? He averaged 8 points during those in those games, but he was guarding the other team's best offensive player. And next thing you know, they convert his contract on Christmas, right? On Christmas Day is when they converted his contract. So not Christmas, I'm sorry, Super Bowl Sunday. It's Christmas for a lot of people around here.
That's
Super
true.
Bowl Sunday, on Super Bowl, that's when, they converted the contract, right? So when we look at that, you have to say that he benefited from a lot of people being injured. And it was one of those things when we looked at his stats in those first 7 games, whatever, he averaged 8.1 points, 3.1 rebounds, 1.4 assists. But at the same time, this guy was playing well and did what he had to do.
So Justin Edwards, to me, too, is such an interesting story because at Imhotep, he was a really good high school player. And he was really highly recruited as well when you look at it from even just 24/7 Sports and things like that, where he was highly recruited in his player ranking, almost a 4-star recruit from that standpoint, 5 stars as well in certain areas. But when you look at what he was able to bring out of college, you say, okay, he could be a really good college player. He goes to Kentucky, and it's interesting because when I was doing a little bit of my prep on him before calling games for the Blue Coats when the season started, the biggest stat that you really look at to point out is that he was second best on the team in how many starts that he had in 30 starts. Other than that, it was really kind of surface level in terms of what you looked at in his overall. It's just 8.8 points per game, 3.4 rebounds in 32 games played during his freshman season. And then, of course, he declares for the draft. He goes undrafted. And then all of a sudden you see him on the Blue Coats. And I know when you see really good high school players and you think that they could possibly have a really good career, it can sometimes falter off, right? The NBA is the best of the best. But when I saw him in a Blue Coats uniform and the way that he was able to perform, I said, okay, this is the Justin Edwards from Imhotep that I remember, the guy that was able to go out there, score at a high average, do a lot of different things. And then he transitions into a really good situation for him, and timing was everything with him. The Philadelphia 76ers started to get hurt. So when he was on the Blue Coats, he could have ran for GLeague MVP at this point. I'm talking how good he was with Delaware. But timing was everything this year for him, and now he has a real chance at the 76ers saying, let's see how you work with a full roster and being able to get you some touches, being able to get you in. If that doesn't happen, we're looking at a really different story for Justin Edwards. But Keith, timing worked out for him, and it is just really good to see somebody that is somewhat local going to the G League, still going after that dream undrafted, that didn't have the best overall college career from a numbers and statistical standpoint, but then really showed up when it mattered. And that was huge for him, being on that two-way, getting converted, and now having a really serious shot and being a part of that 6, 7, 8 rotation with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, the thing about a lot of people don't bring this up, or maybe they just don't know it, but he was injured when he was at Kentucky too. And another thing is he had what they call a bad body. And what I mean by that is when you looked at him, he wasn't like the most cut up dude. He wasn't jacked up. And there were certain people, because of, I guess, the injury or the things he had, like he missed some time. A lot of people felt like he would have been better off like coming back for another year, right? Because he has the distinction. Like you talk about, you talk about how great his career was. He was the number one player in the country at one particular point. And at the end, he ended up being number 3 in the ranking in his class, right? He was third best prospect in high school coming out of 2023. So, he was a great player, but a lot of people felt like, it was like he's such a team-oriented guy, to whereas when you look at that Kentucky team, a lot of times the guys who get the notoriety are the ones who's being ultra aggressive with the ball, trying to get their own shots. But not the knock, but there were people who felt like he would have benefited from another year, a year to further develop his body, a year to like get over the stuff that was harming, that was bothering him. But you got to give him credit. You said, he played in over 30 games, but he wasn't himself because he was banged up. Here's the thing. Like, I feel like a guy like him, he did benefit from the circumstances, but I think that he would have been fine no matter what. His just path would have been different. Now, we look at his path in high school. Like, again, he ascended to being the number 1 player in the country at one point, and he slid down 2 spots. But it didn't start that way. He wasn't like, as a freshman, he wasn't like on the radar, anyone's radar, basically. So everything that's happening to him now is basically how it's always been for him. So there's a comfort level, right? Like, you go somewhere and it's like, okay, I'm the man. Like, he was supposed to be the man at Kentucky, and then he slid down. But then he comes to the 76ers and it's like, yeah, okay, I was in high school, I was better than Jared McCain. Yeah. I was better than all these other guys who went, in the lottery. But guess what? People are doubting me. So I got to go out there and show what I can do. Because, he was such a good player that he is the first and only player that came out of Imhotep. Is a national powerhouse for basketball now, to have his jersey retired. So that should show you how good he was. You know what I mean? So I feel like he would have found his niche. It just would have been time. And also, he's represented by Clutch with Rich Paul.
Right.
And, so he has Rich Paul as his agent.
You know how that goes.
Yeah, he would have been cool. He would have been cool after a
In
while.
any which way.
Yeah.
Good agency there, able to get him some deals, but we'll continue to talk about Edwards. When we come back, I want to go to the timing aspect of it, because you make a good point there was a lot of people saying, should have you gone back to Kentucky for another year? And I want to dive into that a little bit more when we come back on the other side right here on Locked On 76ers. And did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your pair of controllers, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, as it's all on your Fire TV. Latest technology for elevated playing with Wi-Fi 6/6E and auto low latency mode. Advanced technology. Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. Endless entertainment with 4K streaming. Watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed series like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Affordable and portable gaming. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. And this is huge. And even if you don't have gaming experience or anything like that, there's great other entertainment choices. But I know there's a lot of people out there that are watching or listening right now that really enjoy gaming. So this is the perfect opportunity for you to be able to find this game changer. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. So make sure that you go check it out today. If you're a gamer, you can have so many great assets. If you're not, there's so many more things that can have that entertainment value. So make sure that you go check it out today. So timing can truly be everything for some of these NBA players. And it's interesting because in the last segment, we talked a little bit about Justin Edwards. A lot of people, looking at the injury, getting your body right, getting this, that, and the other to happen. I think you can make a better argument for that too if the situation was different this past year. If he was on that two-way contract and never got a deal, people might have said, okay, well, maybe he really should have stayed and, got better numbers at Kentucky and got healthier. But now, what better way, Keith, to just say, hey, well, I'm going to go to the NBA, get my body right. Timing showed up for me perfectly. I was able to show people what I can do. And he truly became somebody the fans really, really liked as well. Not even just a local tie-in, but being able to see him go from the Blue Coats to play in the way that he could. And he's young, too. When you look at Justin Edwards, he is just 21 years old. So what fans are looking at from their point of view is, okay, timing worked out good there. You're not wishing that he took another year at Kentucky because clearly it's working out in the NBA for him at this moment. And he's only 21 years old. So when we talk about bringing the youth factor back, and we talk about bringing in a younger team that we saw last year, Justin Edwards is a big part of that when it comes from that standpoint. And the fans seem like they like it on their end too when he played.
Yeah, but he's also a guy, because what he played 3 games in the Blue Coats, right?
Yep.
When you,
Yep.
Yeah, he only played 3 games. But the thing about it is, my thing is, you know what? He watched and he saw how the 76ers played. But Justin Edwards is going to be, Justin Edwards will be more of a rotational player, more so than, yesterday we talked about Ricky Council III, right? And so I think that Justin could be a guy that, depending on certain nights, he could start. I mean, he can guard the opposing team's best player. Heck, there was times that Paul George told Nick Nurse, you got to play this guy more. You have to play him more, right? So I think that he benefited from, watching him and also being a guy, you say timing is right. I feel like, I hate to say this, and I know Kentucky is where everybody wants to go and everything like that. But for Justin Edwards, I think that it would have, I don't know if he would have gotten any better if he would have stayed at Kentucky. Now, maybe if he would have stayed at if he would have went to Arkansas, because the only reason why I'm saying that is because at Kentucky, when they tend to get these guys, right, who are these first round draft picks, and these guys, name me one of the guys who, and there could have been a couple of them, but I don't know of any guy that I can name offhand who went in the lottery from Kentucky who stayed more than 1 year. And it seems like Kentucky's the one school that you go to, the longer you stay, I'm talking about under Calipari, the longer that you stayed, your draft stock just dropped. So it might have just been best for him, because typically we look at it and we talk about player development. We talk about guys getting better. Well, according to the scouts, he didn't get better being there. So for him, it's like, yo, the longer that I don't go pro and I stick around, it's going to be, people are going to start thinking less and less about how I was a can't miss pro in high school. So I felt like he had to leave because I didn't think he was going to get any better. You know what I mean? Being at Kentucky. So, you know, it is what it is. Now, the one thing is, like, I guess they could have done a better job. And if what NBA scouts said about his body, they could have done a better job of making sure that he got his stuff in gear to get him ready for the league. Because the thing is, the Sixers got to steal. They got to steal. They got this guy, you know, undrafted. You know, he got a non-guarantee, you know, contract, the whole nine. But now he's eating trainer table food like he did last year at Kentucky. But now he's working out in the gym. His body's going to get better. And I feel like he's going to be a solid contributor. You know what I mean? Now, here's the thing. He's not as athletic as Ricky Council, right? He's not, but he's a more polished player, right? So when you factor that stuff in, that's why I think that he has a huge upside, because he's only going to get better. The question mark is, though, what number is he going to be in the rotation? You know, can he develop to be your fifth starter? Can he do that? Some people may say the team is too deep, but if he's not, what number is he going to be? Is he going to be a sixth man, seventh man, eighth man, ninth man? What is he going to be? But I do see him contributing.
Yeah, I want to dive into that more too on the other side. Just kind of when we don't know what the team's going to look right? There's a lot of things that can happen in free agency, in the offseason, the draft, and everything in between. But we'll dabble into that in just a moment. And I want to go back to really quickly to when we talk about Justin Edwards and, you know, you saying, oh, well, I don't think the second year would have worked out. And he proved that to people, right? As soon as he came into the G. Now, he played 3 regular season games with the Delaware Blue Coats, but they have their season split a little bit. So they have a tip-off tournament where they have a certain schedule, and then that counts towards the tip-off tournament cup, and then they go into the regular season. So he did have 14 games in the tip-off tournament as well, with 18.2 averaging points per game averaging. And then that only went up in the 3 regular season games that he had at 19.7. So what he did, he was able to show this organization and everything in between that he can go out there and play, whether it's tip-off tournament time, whether it's the regular season, no matter who's around him too. And then he goes to the NBA and says, well, yeah, I'm going to use that development and take it and actually play it in the NBA. And you didn't have to see him on the side.
But do you actually think he got better playing in the G League?
I do.
I don't know anybody who turned the G League into like data man.
I do believe that if for some reason he wasn't a two-way, right? If he was just on an NBA roster, he doesn't get to play at the rate that he was playing early on. And I think that helped out with his development, his confidence. So I do believe that for Justin Edwards. And I get your point though, but I do believe that.
I you know what? Like, no offense to the G League, and I hate to say this, but I feel like that's the marketing tool, right? Mm-hmm. Like, such and such came here and they got better. The dude was the number 1 player in the country playing against dudes who were like in the G League who wasn't. I mean, so like, again, it did help him get confidence, but I feel like, to be honest with you, him being in the gym, seeing how Paul George works out, seeing how Tyrese Maxey works out, seeing Drummond, seeing all those veterans. I think that's what helped him more so because the talent is always there. Now, yeah, it might have got him confidence, but again, like the one dude that I'm talking about, TJ McConnell and Rashawn Holmes went down there maybe 3 times. TJ McConnell never played in it, so I don't know. Like, I get it, but I always feel like the G League team is kind of like, yeah, we got this guy better. Okay, all right. But they're playing different roles. You know what I mean? Like,
they are.
Like they're playing different roles. Like, okay, look at, oh man, like the Sixers had guys. They had a lot of guys who went down to the G League, and they said they were getting them better, and none of them are on the team. Mm-hmm. They all got traded or they got waived.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's I don't know. We could agree to disagree because I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know. Like Yabusele, he could have went to the G League, but no, he wanted to go overseas. So.
And listen, the G League's not glamorous either when you're in terms of you're busing to a lot of different games. You're not getting, these charter flights like you're able to get in the NBA. But I do believe that Justin Edwards, the way that he was able to erupt in the G League early in the season, in the tip-off tournament, a few games in the regular season, that helped him out, transition well to the NBA, being able to take in a lot from PG and those guys. And then it was a quick transition for him to be able to implement himself right away. So on my end, I do believe it. Let us know what you guys think in the comments as well. It's different for every player, though, because you're right. Somebody like Jaden Springer came down.
Different roles.
They are. Roles. But
like he was the leading scorer in the G League, but he had to play defense in the NBA. Like, he wasn't getting shots. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah, he did. But like I said, I still, I think the way that he was able just to explode in the G, clearly the Sixers liked it. That's what they look for. They bring him up. He transitions nicely in any role. And I think the one thing about Justin Edwards, too, is he was adaptable in any position where he was at with Delaware, because some nights it wasn't him. Some nights it was Jeff Dowtin, because those two guys did play together, and he was able to kind of move around and shift around, too, with the Blue Coats. But as you alluded to, agree to disagree on that one with Justin Edwards in terms of that transition as well. But I do want to dive into, before we send things off, a little bit of where his placement might be next year. If we can look up even some type of mock lineup here, trying to see who we want back from the 76ers when we come back on the other side. And we have to tell you about Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why I use Game Time, last-minute deals. This is huge for me. It's something I tell all of my friends to do if they are just last minute trying to go to a game or a concert and they really want an opportunity to be able to go, but weren't able to look at the tickets beforehand. They can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and anything in between. The all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed, because what time is it? It is Game Time. So right off the bat for me, for Justin Edwards, I see him being a 7 or 8 guy coming in for the 76ers, because if everything in my book goes well, you look at the draft pick coming in, Jared McCain, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, a possibility of Quentin Grimes still being on the team, Yabu, and then I have Justin Edwards kind of filtering in around there as well, coming in as that 7th or 8th, depending on your matchups and things like that. Where do you see him? And I know it's tough to tell at this moment because of free agency and the draft pick and everything, but where do you kind of like him in that rotation?
It's kind of tough because we don't know who's going to be here. But like, right. If you say the starters, let's say, and I'm just going right here, like, let's just say right now, you have Tyrese Maxey, Quentin Grimes as your backcourt, Joel Embiid, of course, as the center. Then you have Kelly Oubre as the 3, and then you have Paul George as the 4, right? So right then and there, so then you figure the 6th man is going to be Jared McCain, right? So that's 6 right there. Then you need a big that's going to come in, a backup big. Embiid is going to come out. So then 7 would probably be Andre Drummond, or let's say if Yabusele's here. So, it's tough for me to say, where is he going to be? Because, maybe I don't see him being 6 or 7 just because you need to take somebody out and you got to bring Jared McCain in the guard spot.
Mm-hmm.
But he could possibly be 8, right? He could possibly be 8 or he could be 9. I mean, it just depends on how they stagger it. And then also, you know what? Maybe it could be one of those things where Kelly Oubre doesn't start and he comes off the bench, right? And who knows? But if Kelly's not here, you know what? You say he'll probably take Kelly's position in the rotation if he doesn't. But also, we have to also consider something. Let's just say if they get Ace Bailey, if they acquire Ace Bailey, I think Ace Bailey is starting. Like I think Ace Bailey is starting at the 3, right?
I do too,
right?
yeah.
So where that does is then that drops them down another spot. You know what I mean? Because then you got to bring these other guys off the bench. So to me, it's kind of tough. But like if you base it off of just what they had last year of guys saying that, I would have to say he'd probably be the 8th man or something like that. Just based off of that. But it's tough right now. I do think that he is. And he's the type of guy that every team needs a guy like him. And you alluded to it earlier. He's a selfless guy, so he can play on the floor with a lot of different players, and he could also be a guy. I don't know if they want to do it, but he could be a starter in this league where you just say, hey, you know what? You're not going to get a lot of shots. What we're going to do is we want you to be a 3 and D. That's what we need you to do. And he'll welcome that. We're talking about a guy who was out there guarding Steph Curry, guarding KD, guarding all these types of players and did a good job at it. So I could honestly see him possibly being a starter. I don't know if they'll do that, but I can see him being a starter because it's not going to be a lot of shots to go around for people. So you can have him in lineups that are staggered where guys are going to get their shots, Maxey and PG and Quentin Grimes, whereas he'll be a guy that's just going to defend, rebound, and he's going to shoot open 3-pointers. So yeah, so it's tough, but I think that tough for me to pinpoint where he'll be until we know what the roster's like. But at the same time, I think that if I had to say it right now, what they have, he's like an 8th man.
Yeah, and realistically, a lot could happen over this offseason and a free agency, and really just looking at who they draft, where they end up in the draft is going to be really important for them. But what I will say is I'm really excited about the future for Justin Edwards. He's 21 years old. He fits in really well with this team. He is going to succeed wherever you put him in terms of he's not the type of guy, we talk about some players and say, will they be okay with stepping back and just be put in to take a few threes and then be subbed out? Justin Edwards is the guy who's going to come in and do what you need him to do, and you're not going to have to worry about that side of things. So we will wait and see. Once again, it depends where they end up in the draft, who they end up drafting, who they keep in free agency. There's a lot of things we still have to go over and continue to evaluate and analyze as well. But this is where we're at this point of the off season right now. Justin Edwards, I know a lot of people in terms of the fandom like him. Let us know in the comments how you feel about Justin Edwards and where you see him fitting in to this roster next season if all things go well with everybody getting healthy, everybody getting back, and everything in between. So Justin Edwards, a very impressive year with Philadelphia in the role that he played. And we do know that the Sixers are not in the playoffs, but that doesn't mean you still can't get excited about some prizes that you could possibly win. You have your chance until April 30th. The $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. Get exclusive insights into free agency, draft coverage, and team updates delivered straight to your inbox. Join the Locked On Podcast 76ers for trusted coverage every single day. Subscribe to enter today by clicking in the description. You can check out our free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com as well. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you guys next time right here on Locked On 76ers.